I would like to officially welcome everybody to our session on our WEESSN expansion work. Nicole is going to be leading us through, but I am here to be your hostess with the mostest. If you have questions, you can pop them in the chat, or you can just unmute. We're a small enough group that you could just hop on off. There'll be time at the end for questions, but also if you would like to ask questions along the way, we are super flexible and can totally do that as well. So welcome, Audra. We're glad you're here. We're just getting started. Go ahead, Nicole, kick us off.
All right, so we are super excited that you took time to be with us today. We know how busy your schedules are, and we're excited to be expanding Tier 3 services into La Crosse County. So Kelly, who welcomed us, is a co-director of the Wisconsin Early Education Shared Services Network, also known as WEESSN. And I'm Nicole, and I've been in the early childhood field for over 16 years. I've been a childcare teacher. I've been a 4K teacher in collaboration with a community-based program with a school district and childcare center. I've been a director, an administrator. I've worked for the Young Star program. So primarily my experience has been in group childcare settings. But those of you who are on who may be family providers, we just hired a family coach that will be working with me in La Crosse County. And she is phenomenal from what I've heard. And so we're excited to welcome her on board in the next month or so.
So this slide is just a little bit of the history of WEESSN, of where we've been and where we're going. Our original work started in Vernon and Monroe County, a rural part of Wisconsin. We intentionally picked that because we know that rural communities have different struggles sometimes in securing resources because of population densities. And so we started with 2 childcare programs in January of 19, one family provider and one group provider. And since then, we've grown and grown and grown, which has been really exciting. We won a systems change grant to kick off our work. And then our second cohort in Dane County launched after winning funding through a national competition. They took second place with their model, which was very exciting. We partner with Satellite Family Childcare in that region to support our family childcare providers there. We then won an additional systems change grant for our Milwaukee work. And so to hold both of those systems change grants at the same time is really exciting because it tells me that funders are starting to look at childcare differently as a lever for making change happen in the state. And so that is super exciting. Our fourth cohort launched in the Southwest, and that we expanded during the pandemic. So we doubled in size, both in staff and in programs served, and served the rural sort of southeast or southwestern corner of the state. And the cranberry colored, oh, and I will add that Jackson was also added on during the pandemic. We work with that community as well. And then we recently received funding to expand into 5 new counties in our deep level of service, which is what we will be able to bring to the La Crosse County. So we will be adding the communities of Columbia, Sauk, Dodge, Jefferson, and La Crosse with quote unquote on the ground supports. Right now, everything is virtual due to COVID, but we will be expanding there and providing our deep level of services. Nicole is going to walk us through all of that, but we wanted to give you a little bit of history about how we've grown and expanded and expanded and expanded, and keep welcoming new counties and communities to join us, which is pretty cool. So Nicole, if you'd like to take it from there.
I will. So the Shared Services Network offers 3 different tiers. Tier 1 and Tier 2 are available to anyone in the state, and Tier 3 focuses on 16 different counties in the state right now. So I'll walk you through a little bit of what we have to offer in these tiers, but it's really expansive. And so I encourage you to visit the website as well to learn more about it. For Tier 1, you can enroll anytime, and that's on the WEESSN website. We have a Wiser platform, which I'll go into more detail in a little bit, but that includes shared resources, tools, templates for just about anything you can think of. It also has a digital hiring platform called Acquire for Hire, and that posts to 8 different platforms. So if you're hiring for a teacher, that'll be spread out across LinkedIn, Google, there's Indeed, I think the WEESSN website it posts on. So, but then all of those applicants just come into one area. There will also be quarterly training, which will be emailed out by the WEESSN team. And that primarily addresses, I think, the Wiser platform and just what's on there and how to use it. And so that's very beneficial because there's a lot on there and there's a lot to navigate, and we're always adding to it as well because it's very focused on what is happening in Wisconsin. There will also be WEESSN newsletters that go out monthly and farm to ECE newsletters as well. The Tier 2, you get all Tier 1 benefits. You also get access to virtual coaching, and we have 2 virtual coaches. And I don't know if anybody follows WEESSN on Facebook, but they just did a lovely presentation on Wednesdays with WEESSN about Tier 1 and 2 services and how they can support you. So you'd be able to access them via phone, email, and they can help with just program questions, support, just a listening ear. And so I think that's really beneficial to directors, family childcare providers, just to run something by them, or just to vent. If you just need somebody to talk to, it's been a rough day. I think we can all use that sometimes. There is also a 6-month subscription to a software system through Early Learning Venture, and that is called Alliance Core. And this, they primarily focus on shared services networks. And so it's very much tailored to what family and group providers need and want in Wisconsin to meet their licensing requirements. So you can do attendance, you can have staff files, children's files on there. There's a bunch of different things that you can use, and that is a requirement if you're on Tier 2. So just if you're using something else like Hi Mama or ProCare and you're happy with that, just be aware that that would be a requirement. But it is free. Everything's free right now, which is fabulous. There's also a telemedicine benefit, and it's really hard because of the margins in the childcare industry to be able to offer those benefits to your staff and sometimes for yourself if you're a family provider. And so you wouldn't have the emergency services on here, but you have the general medicine. And then they also have a mental health component too, where you can have 10 free services. And that's for anyone in your immediate household, I believe. And that's the telemedicine docs by phone is accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So I thought that was a really cool element for the Tier 2 services. You'll also have access to professional development again in this tier. And that can be tailored to what providers are telling us that they need. What trainings do they need for their staff? What are they seeing in the field? What would benefit them the most? And those happen about 10 to 12 times a year. The Tier 3 is only available in 16 different counties, and La Crosse happens to be one of them. And so you get all the benefits of 1 and 2. There's a relief squad, back office services, food system supports, and then you also get a dedicated coach And I would be the group coach, like I said, and then we brought on a family coach as well. And so I'm just going to switch slides and go a little bit more into Tier 3 services. So I mentioned a little bit about ELV, and we actually have one of our financial support specialists on with us, and so he's going to go more into that a little later. Relief Squad is currently on hold because of the COVID pandemic. So once things settle down with COVID, which is hopefully soon, we'll be rolling that out again. And so huge benefit to providers who are planning for vacations, people being gone, illness. They would be able to have somebody from our shared services network come in and cover for them. The farm to ECE, we just hired a food systems specialist, and she is there to help support in anything food, pretty much. It could be doing on-site gardening, family engagement when it comes to gardening or healthy foods in the classroom, education with staff, education with the director, pretty much anything that you can think of. If it deals with food and it's something you want in your program, we're willing to work with you and tailor our supports around what you need. Professional development, again, that's anything that you would want. Maybe you're seeing issues with communication in the classroom between staff, and it's just having a session on how to celebrate differences and talk respectfully to one another. We can do things like that. And then the back office services, Dan is here. He's going to talk about that a little later, and don't want to forget the tailored coaching. So I am here for anything that you might need, whether it be just to walk through, maybe there's an incident with a staff and you want to make sure you're handling it the right way. Do you have policies that address it? If not, how can we address it and then put those policies in place so that next time it may occur, that we're able, it's addressed prior to it happening. Maybe you just need somebody to talk to. Maybe you have to be relicensed and renew your license, and you need somebody to fill out that tedious checklist and go through your policies to make sure that they're all there, or to go through it if licensing changes. Pretty much anything you need, it's just somebody to walk alongside you and support you. And so you've heard a little bit about the WEESSN platform. There is a lot of information on here. That's why for Tier 1 professional development, they do segments on what's there and where to find it and how to use it successfully. So we talked about acquire for hire and posting on the employment sites. There's also savings for members. So you can use savings at Discount School Supply, Lakeshore, Kaplan, Childcraft, School Specialty. I believe Ace Hardware was on there. So you get a discount through those different companies and organizations, so it saves you money. There's information on engaging families. So do you have policies that address how you're going to deal with different cultures in your organization and make them feel welcome? In the classroom, it goes through curriculum, assessments. I think there was information on theming on there. There's information about the environment rating scale tools on there. We talked about saving money. So there's discounts, but there's also tools on there to help improve your bottom line. So there's resources that way. Program management, so successful program management, there's a lot that goes into that. So there might be HR policies that look, job postings, job requirements, orientation, staff files, different tools around putting those systems in place. There's also stuff about family childcare. There's a whole toolkit, resources that deal with COVID. There's health, safety, and nutrition, so addressing allergies in the center, infectious diseases, safety checklists, and then there's all things WEESSN on there as well. Special tab, so if you just want to know something more about the Wisconsin Early Education Shared Services Network, you can go click on that and it'll have everything in there. There's also information about different accrediting bodies. So if you're accredited, resources are on there as well.
All right, Nicole, take a break. Take a breather. That was a lot of information. And I just want to pause for folks to either ask questions or get clarifications on things. You can either just unmute or drop it in the chat. Do that awkward pause, give people enough time if they're typing.
A benefit that when I was combing through the platform is that sometimes you have things come up and you don't have policies or procedures for, and so you have to create it. On here, it's not reinventing the wheel. So there's things on there that have templates, and you can just arrange them to meet your program standards or tweak them a little bit. So that is a time saver in and of itself. We're always adding things to it as well. So the other day, a colleague of ours did a slideshow orientation for school age and group centers. So it outlines the licensing orientation and what you have to talk about. And there's just a few places in there that you have to go add specific things about your program. But that's something that the Shared Services Network had heard from providers that would be really helpful to have, because with staff turnover and having to do that with every person that you onboard, that can take up a lot of your time.
Nicole, we have a question. Is there an annual subscription fee to join each tier?
No, not at this time. Everything is free to use. Whether you're in tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, and that we were giving funding through the Department of Children and Families, and so that is at least through the end of next year, so 2022, and then we're working on securing additional funding through just a sustainability kind of, I don't know,
plan
assessment to see where we're at and how we're doing, and continue doing so.
The only things that there will be fees for is after your 6 months of technology use on tier 2. If you continue with ELV, there is a fee to that, and we can get you the cost for that, but it is pretty minimal. Nicole or Dan, I don't know if you have that handy, but I'll give you a sec to be able to share that. And once Relief Squad is up and running, there is a $10 fee per hour. We cover the first 2 hours of onboarding that you do with that person, since licensing requires you to do that, and we want them to feel comfortable in your program and you feel comfortable with them. So that $10 covers a little less than half of what it costs us to run this program, but then it does help us be able to provide more hours and spread that out a little bit. We also have a question that says, I'm from Sheboygan, can I join? You can join tier 1 or tier 2 at this time. The deep level of service of tier 3, we are not yet in Sheboygan, but we are in conversations in that community. So I can hook you up with the folks that are talking about it and talking about shared services there, so that you can connect with them and learn more about what they're doing.
And I believe for the ELV, for larger programs, it would be about $100 a month. And then for smaller group programs, 50, and I think for family, it's about 25 from what I learned from Janine and Amy. And so compared to other sophomore systems that are out there, it's very affordable.
And your numbers are spot on, Nicole.
And if Dan confirms it, he's a numbers guy.
Yes.
And I think the biggest thing that remember too there is WEESSN will pay all the onboarding costs with the LV. So usually there's a big chunk of money up front that we will cover.
Yeah. And speaking of Dan, he is our financial support specialist, and we call him the back office services. And so he has agreed to join us tonight so he can share a little bit more of what he does for programs.
Well, thank you, Nicole. This is the part that really excites me, guys. I mean, the whole program is really exciting. I think as a program administrator for many years, there were so many nights I was sitting there going, what is the answer to that question? Where can I find that answer? And to have these built-in supports, I mean, I think we all would have wanted for years. So it's great to see it coming to La Crosse County. So some of the back office supports that we do provide would be some budget creation and review. That can be as simple as, starting from the beginning, a center maybe who's never created a budget, we can set up a chart of accounts, talk through the process. Otherwise, an established budget, we can give it, examples, review those. Certainly can support tuition fee setting and other fees, invoicing, billing, and collections. So we can do that whole service for you through Alliance Core software. There's a provider that I'm currently working with in Dane County, which is a large group center who has recently lost their business manager. Instead of rehiring that position, we were able to take on those services for them, and which just highlights kind of what's special about this. And they were able to then redistribute those funds in their budget to actual staff raises. So just giving you more resources in those tight budgets already to be able to do so was really helpful for that center. That same center was actually doing all paper enrollment forms as well too. So this got everything electronic in the electronic system. They're able just to kind of push their enrollment out each year instead of dealing with 150 packets to review and go enter into a computer. So certainly adds efficiency, but also adds making sure everything's correct too. Tailored business support, so we can certainly just tailor those based on what your needs are. We'll also do strategic planning and business plan developments. Many times right now, especially, I think we're seeing grants come out. So certainly we want to help support those if there's other initiatives you're looking for. I know from experience, going through a capital campaign for the first time in my life, wow, would this been a nice support to have, somebody who could kind of walk you through that process a little bit. So that's what we want to be, is a support system for your business. Financial forecasting and reporting, we can help you create profit and loss statements, help board of directors review some of those statements, help your admin team kind of go through those as well. And then, as we've mentioned at length, the Alliance Core software and financial tracking software is just a great savvy system. If you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go check out a demo. If you are interested in joining one of our tier 2 or tier 3 centers, we can certainly set up a free demo for you. It just, it's nice that it houses your whole business right there, from enrollment to billing to tuition. It gives the parents an easy way to pay tuition each month. Through a variety of sources, credit cards, ACH payments. It certainly gives you the ability to continue to take check payments if you choose so as well. So really, we want to tailor these supports to your current business. You guys all know your business is the best, your customers. And if we can add some options and ideas and, just help support what you're currently doing, is kind of the idea.
Dan, what if I'm a family provider and I don't have a board or staff or anything like that? Is back office still a good option for me?
Oh, that's a great question, Kelly. It absolutely is. I mean, I think even sometimes even more so. I think, knowing what I did and how many hats I wore, talking with family providers, I mean, you wear double the hats of that. So the thought would be, we could certainly support all of that with you, hopefully free you up to do some things that you need to do, spend time with the children, curriculum development, maybe take a much needed vacation. So absolutely. ELV is Alliance Core actually offers a time and percentage based kind of system in there too. So you can help track that for tax purposes as well too.
Cool. And I just want to make sure that folks are aware that the Department of Children and Families recently changed their licensing commentary. so that family childcare providers can now use software like ELV to do all of their onboarding, enrollment, attendance, and all of that, where previously you could use software, but you had to have paper forms as well as part of that. But now they have made the language the same between center-based programs and family childcare homes so that all programs can use software. And we are very excited about that because we think that will make a huge difference for family childcare providers just to have more efficiency in their program. So that is a big win for Wisconsin.
Yeah. And like Dan said too, when I was a director, I was in charge of all of these things. And if I did not have to do all of these, I would have had more time in the classroom supporting my staff, and just focusing more on, you know, where we wanted to go as a whole with curriculum assessments and just being in the team more, because this does take up a lot of time. And again, it is free. So now we are lucky to have Amanda join us tonight. Amanda participated in WEESSN with her program, and she's just gonna share a little bit about her participation and how it impacted the program she was working for.
Thanks, Nicole. So I took a position as an assistant director at a medium-sized group center in Dane County in 2019, late in 2019. And in my first few weeks, we had a meeting with our program coach at the time. And after an hour and a half with that program coach, and they left, and the director was giving me a bit of history on WEESSN and how our center had come to work with them and what their services were and what they provided. My immediate reaction was, why doesn't this exist everywhere? The good news is that that's kind of what WEESSN's trying to do. And so the expansion is well timed because I think over and over again, I was proven right that that first meeting was really indicative of how useful and how critical really WEESSN's relationship to us was. In those meetings, it really felt like our program coach was a person who was truly dedicated to assisting us find resources, sharing information with us, presenting ideas, answering questions, and really just listening intently to any difficulties we were having. And I think our coach's voice was particularly salient to us because she had been there. She had been a director for years. She knew the struggles we were going through because she herself had faced them. And while she didn't present ideas as answers, but rather possibilities to consider. So there was never pressure to make a choice one way or the other, but rather a presentation of ideas, a presentation of resources or things to look at or consider that we might not have otherwise considered. And therefore, we were more capable of making really educated decisions that served our center in the best way possible. So I think over the course of our relationship, of course, shortly after I began at the center, COVID hit. So necessarily our conversations changed a bit to more immediate issues, right? Our center, like some centers across the country, kind of closed for a period of 2 months while the world was at a bit of a standstill. And the process of reopening and figuring out what our world would look like was daunting. And WEESSN and our coach were critical in helping us face that. I think every time we thought to have a question about how reopening would look, what policies we would have in place for health or cleanliness, what policies we'd have in place for sick children or sick staff. Whenever we thought to have that question, WEESSN already had a document that was a one-page summary of what we might consider in making that policy, or giving us a sample policy to look at. Their website, the newsletters from our coach, became our main source of information, because we knew we could trust it, and that it was full of information that was from resources that they had themselves combed through, or webinars they had sat in on, or meetings that they had been in with public health officials that we may or may not have had access to as early as they did. And that information was just critical for us, especially at that time. But beyond COVID and all those important pieces of information that they offered, also looking through our policies, at one point, our policy book seemed quite robust, and it was, but some of our policies were just a bit broad. Our maternity leave policy, for example. And so, of course, necessarily when a staff member announced their pregnancy, it caused us to look at that policy with a little more fine-tooth comb. And we realized this needs to be more detailed. And so we spoke with our coach and she helped us lay out some policies. We used WEESSN for some of those templates, but she also provided us with some other policies that other centers used, keeping privacy, of course, and asking their permission to share those, but other centers and what their policies and practices are, so that we had a point of comparison to consider, which was really helpful and something we wouldn't have otherwise, I don't think, had access to. So terribly helpful. We also really depended upon WEESSN for financial guidance. Right as we were closed, our in-house financial manager also resigned. And so we were sort of forced to make a choice about where to go from there. Things like navigating the PPP loan, we did on our own, but we didn't feel alone in it because we had our coach. And I do looking back, I recall us, like so many other businesses, when we were closed and not receiving revenue from tuition for those 2 months, questioning what we were going to do, how we were going to retain our staff. And it was right about the time the PPP loan came out, or it was being talked about, but there wasn't great detail. And it was our coach that said, just hold on another day. We'll have more information. One more day, I promise. They're releasing, the Small Business Association is releasing a ton of information. We'll have more information. So we waited. And because of that help in letting us pause, we were able to obtain the PPP loan, and we were able to retain all of our staff. We didn't need to furlough anyone. And I really largely, in a time of so many unknowns, credit them for that help, for that guidance. Just to pause with some background information. We've also used the Relief Squad before COVID. They had launched the Relief Squad, and so we had a Relief Squad member come into our center several times. It was a lovely source when, at a time, even now, when staffing feels impossible, especially finding substitutes, to have someone that we knew was high quality, that could become sort of a member of our team in a different way, and provide consistency, another consistent face for our staff to get to know, and for our children to get to know, and at such a deep discount, right? Like any other substitute we would have paid was above the $10 an hour mark, and so that $10 an hour was significantly less expensive for us, and really, really helpful. We also gained access as directors to professional development. So both the director and I participated in monthly meetings for a year for reflective supervision supports, and gaining insights on how to conduct reflective supervision with our staff. So that also was invaluable, and I'm grateful that I had that experience now. So I think, on the whole, to summarize, I think our time investment into WEESSN paid itself back in spades, both monetarily and in time saved, that we were able to focus more on staff and the children and what we do best, right? I did my education because I love being with kids and working with kids, and that I believe so strongly in early childhood education and the value of it. And while I really love and am good at organizing, it's not my life's work necessarily, but it is when it comes to working with young children. And so giving us the freedom to work in the classrooms and be with children was really invaluable.
Thank you, Amanda.
You should be a motivational speaker. I was listening to you and just in awe, and really wish that I'd had those same supports when I was going through some of those times that you were talking about, because it just really brought back a lot of memories for me, and I could have used that support system there. So thank you. We appreciate you being here and sharing that.
Can I do it quick?
Yeah.
So I just want to say that some of the folks on the call tonight have had a center-based focus. So Nicole, that's her background. Amanda, that's her experience. Dan's background is in center-based administration. We do have that same deep level of support and knowledge for our family childcare providers. So my background is actually in family childcare. I love all things family childcare business practices, tax code and tax law for family childcare. Like, that's where I geek out. And so, and then my co-director, Paula, she comes from the center-based world. So between the two of us, we have this nice balance of each other, of our lived experience in leading programs like that. And we ensure that all of our coaches that work with programs have had years of experience doing this work and actually leading programs. So all of our coaches that work with family childcare programs have run their own family childcare program. And all of our coaches for the center-based programs have been administrators and directors of programs. So we have all walked in the shoes that you have been in. And I think that that is important, because I've had a parent yell at me about payment stuff, or, you know, had kids sick and trying to figure out that right policy of how do we work that into a budget, if they get time off for that or not, and all of that, and having to figure those things out to make sure my bottom line worked and I could stay in the field to do this work. So even though we're hearing a little bit from the center-based programs, a bit more in their experience, just do know that if you are a family provider or know family providers that might be interested, that deep level of support is there for them as well.
Yes, and so that leads me into the next slide. If you know other people, we would appreciate you helping us spread the word in all tiers, 1, 2, and 3. So WEESSN is very active on social media. So if you are not following them, they're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Go share their posts so you can help spread the word to other people that may be interested in our services. You can send us an email. There is emails based on the tiered services on the website, and also you'll be able to have Kelly's email and my email, and I think you already have my email because I sent out a reminder. Personal referrals. So if you have used services and want to promote them, we will gladly accept those referrals as well. We can share our WEESSN brochure. We can present to anyone and everyone, whether it be programs or community based organizations. WEESSN, I think, has done all of that already, and so they're ready to go. And again, you can go to the WEESSN's website on the WEESSN webpage and sign up for Tier 1 services now if you are interested. And then I will also put in the chat at the end a link to sign up for Tier 3 services as well, if you already know that that's for you and that's what you want to do. We want to help you and support you in any way we can.
And yeah, I just want to say, knowing that you're from Sheboygan, if you have community connections like the chamber or business associations or other folks that are taking on the childcare challenge in your community, I'd be more than happy to come and present and share some of the work we're doing with other communities to help inspire Sheboygan as well.
And with that being said, we will open it up for questions. You can ask questions of me, Kelly, Amanda, Dan, anything that you want to know or need clarification on. We would be happy to help with that. If you don't want to ask questions now, you can also take down our emails, because you can email us later as well.
And I do just want to share, Audra's here from Parenting Place, and that's the local CCRNR in La Crosse. We're super excited she's here. Our services don't step on toes of other organizations. We think of it as sort of wraparound. So you have your Young Start consultant, you have all of the resources at Parenting Place with their trainings and resources that they can bring to your program. This is just another add-on and wraparound. We know that this work is hard. We don't pretend to be Young Start or a resource and referral, and we know that when those things are needed, we have relationships to be able to make those handoffs so that people get connections in all the different ways that are out there. We're not licensing, but we have relationships with licensors, so we can do that sort of relationship building as well. We don't pretend to be the things that we're not, and really try to stay in our lane of these are the services we can provide. And we network those relationships to make sure that if it's not something we do, we can do a warm handoff to the folks that you do need to talk to get those things met. So we're really excited that Audra's here. And I don't know, Audra, if you wanted to say a few words about the other things that you offer to also wrap around from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Kelly. Yeah, this is not a duplication of services. So some examples of how we've worked together are, our Young Start consultants have often needed a deeper level of, not often, but sometimes need a deeper level of support on, some of the budgeting or financial management issues, taxes, that sort of thing. So we've been able to reach out to Kelly, with some of those questions. Also connecting on pre-licensing, because we offer pre-licensing consultation. So when there are some of those deeper level business practice, items that they need to set up or have questions on, then we're able to connect around those as well. So it's not a duplication. It's intended to be an add-on and work in conjunction with one another. We have also had a lot of excitement over the Relief Squad, and particularly with the workforce shortage right now. I know I've heard that centers especially are really looking forward to having that service back, because they are scrambling to, fill those vacancies that they have in staffing, daily. So
we cannot wait until we can reinstate that part of our program.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments or stories or wonderings? All right, I'm not hearing any. Seeing some smiles though, and I think that's a good sign. So Nicole's put in the chat our sign up. If you are already interested and you want this to be in your world, we are so excited to have you come on board. Please help spread the word. We will send out this recording if you have other folks that you would like to share this with. We would love for you to do that. And we can't wait to help serve you. We wake up every day thinking, how can we make childcare providers' lives easier? Like that's our tagline in our heads as we go to work each day. So thanks so much for being here tonight.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thanks, Dawn.